Hello, welcome to Update 2 of the Canada's Wonderland recreation in Planet Coaster. If you have not watched Update 1, I highly recommend you do so now, especially the first minute or two of it, as it provides a lot of background as to this project, and a lot of context as to why I will say the word iteration so much. Hopefully I won't be saying it as much this episode, as most of what you're seeing will be new, but that sentence wouldn't have made sense if you haven't seen the first minute or two of the first update. So anyways, moving on. Nothing on International Street at all. I do plan on updating these buildings at some point, as well as building the fourth one, but nothing has changed there. First changes will come when we get to the Frontier Canada Plaza, or like the Celebration Canada Plaza. The buildings and such were here in the last update, but it's all laid out properly now with pathing and such. Canyon Trader is also here now, and Flying Canoes actually looks good. Moving on to Kidzville, most of it was seen in the last update. There's still no progress on Maple Park Treehouse whatsoever. Most of the progress is down here. I'm not sure if these Midway games were in the last update, but they're here now. Taxi Jam is actually finished. You can see the track work and supports and such are all done, as well as the sort of cardboard cutout scenery. Also have the ride camera there. And that all looks great. Swing time here, the actual ride itself was made by Idro on the Steam Workshop. It looks absolutely incredible. I did the scene around it, turned out good. The sort of last thing I have to do for Kidzville is Kidzville Station, and you'll know because of the in-game track rides, they are too wide and also aren't able to make sharp enough turns to properly recreate Kidzville Station, so I took it into my own hands and made my own sort of track ride. It looks just good enough. And then that's what exists of the actual station itself so far. Ghoster Coaster over here is the only thing in Planet Snoopy so far, and it's just the track work as well as some very minimal station work and some supports. That's it for that side of the park. Moving on to the actual meat of the episode here, we have the entire Whitewater Canyon path. You'll see the first lookout there. Before I show off Whitewater Canyon, I'll show off Action Theater. Action Theater is one of my favorite buildings in the park. I just think it's so strange and mysterious just sitting back here being used for pretty much nothing. I just really like the architecture of it as well. And then you'll see the back of the building here as well as that storage building they built a couple years back. A detail that I really like to include is, so you'll know in 2019 the queue for it was rerouted to attach onto the Whitewater Canyon Pass, since pretty much all they're using it for now is Halloween Haunt. So you'll see the path with the railings is what they did in the 2019 season, and they just gutted the old queue, so you can see where the old queue used to sit, and it's not that obvious in real life, but it was just a detail I wanted to include, and you'll know it used to enter where this seating area is now. Heading back down the Whitewater Canyon path, you'll see we get to the other lookout here, which looks out over the waterfall, and then the entrance to the queue line. It's missing some signage here, which I'll be sure to add more later once I can get actual photos of those signs. Getting up to the station, you have these buildings here, which I went very detailed with in terms of the skeleton of the roof. And you'll know the way that stations work in Planet Coaster. This is the best I could do, really. I think it looks the best I could get with it, unfortunately. But the actual station structure itself looks good, and if you just look at it like from here, it looks just normal. I'll do a quick walkthrough of Whitewater Canyon's layout. You can see the first tower there. There's not much scenery in the first half of it, other than trees and such. But once you get to here, where that first lookout is, you have Tower 2, as well as where you used to be able to pay to shoot people with water. If you watch the two 30-minute episodes from the previous iteration, in 2019 I think they were released, you'll know how I do the tunnel. But this was all built for this project. None of this was taken over. The waterfall there, as well as this final stretch of Whitewater Canyon, which is one of the nicest looking parts of the park. especially when you're stacking backwards on the lift like that. These Intamin Rapids Ride bumpers, I forget who made them, but they're insanely well done, so I'll be sure to mention that in the next update. You can see the whole reservoir here and such. And then these buildings here, which are for Whitewater Canyon. Quick overview of the whole layout there. It all looks really good. Heading down the Yukon Striker path, that goes in between Yukon Striker and Whitewater Canyon. You'll see Splashworks starts to make itself visible. Here's where Tundra Twister will be going this season, so I look forward to building a custom flat ride for that. These buildings were all here in the last update. I just have the path laid out now. As you can see, it's not done. There's still, like, that entire side. I started work on Yukon Striker Station. It's not done. I mostly just have the front of it, and I'm going to redo what you can see of the queue line there. The water tower was just taken from the previous iteration, as well as these canopies, but they are very rough around the edges, so I will probably redo them. For Yukon Striker's brake run and mid-course brake run, I sort of traced the in-game catwalks and made my own, which they look a lot better than you'll see the in-game catwalks here on the lift. And also, in order to have the in-game ones green, the cross ties and such have to be green. So I'm going to try and work on a solution for that. You'll see the one on the mid-course here. Moving on to Splashworks. This main gift shop change room building was also in the last update, if I remember correctly. However, I added the proper type of roof, which is on the workshop, and it looks really good. Riverside Snacks here is pretty much done, just missing a sign. The lockers there. So I'll do the right side of Splashworks first. You can see Lakeside Lagoon here, as well as the Lakeside Lagoon Kids Slides, which look good. Splash Island Waterways and the spray pad are here. The spray pad especially looks good. You'll see Minebuster in the background. I'll get to that soon. Whirlwinds is here, and all of the slides, or at least most of them, use these slide pieces, which were created by, I believe it was Ollie414 on the workshop. They are a lifesaver. They significantly decrease the piece count if I had to make them all custom. They are such a big help. But you'll see Whirlwind's tower there. The entrance to the Lazy River itself isn't done, but I have the entrance and the fences and such. Most of the water you'll see in Splashworks are these ripple glass pieces from the workshop. I'm not sure who was who made them, but they're a huge help. I think they look just good enough as water. Barracuda Blaster here. That also connects onto the Lazy River. Riptide Racer turned out really good, but since I'm just using the in-game, like, art shapes, it sort of loads out once you get too far. Super Soaker and the Plunge. The Plunge, I did the first enclosed part of it entirely custom, which took forever. Then for... Did I call this the Plunge? Because that's Super Soaker. But the Plunge itself and the outdoor portion of Super Soaker, I'm using the in-game wooden bobsled track. I'm going to work on making the transition more seamless there. And you can see the tower up to it, as well as up to Riptide Racer. You can see the bridge that connects the other side of Splashworks to the back half. I'll quickly show off the little storage area here that sits behind the Minebuster's turnaround. These two buildings were taken from the last iteration, but I made some changes to them to be more accurate. You'll see on Waveside Pizza here the new timber kit structures that were built for the 2022 season. They look great. I really got the sort of structure of them down. Black Hole over here was taken from the last iteration, but it was one of the more recent things built for it, so it still holds up today. Pump House was also taken from the last iteration. Mountain Bay Cliffs I did entirely custom. I also have the whole staircases and such back there, which turned out well. Whitewater Bay is here. It's missing the little building at the back, which I will be sure to do soon. And of course it doesn't look right without Behemoth towering over it, but I will get to that eventually. You can also see the other new timber kit structure built for the 2022 season. Minebuster, I just completed track work for. I'm doing the terrain as I go, which once the terrain is done, I can get the supports in and do the custom batter braces and such, as you can see on the turnaround here. And then here, the last thing in Splashworks I forgot to show is, forget what it's called, but that was also taken over from the last iteration, but this area is clearly a lot more unfinished. Anyways, that does it for this update. Thank you for watching, and hopefully it will not be 2 years until the next one.